Hello, y'all. Grown Black Folks Talk. Georgia on my mind and the specific issue that I have with Herschel Walker. Now, it's Tuesday morning when you see this, it'll be Tuesday morning, and everybody in the country basically will be doing some version of Georgia, Georgia, the whole day through. Like an old sweet song keeps Georgia on my mind. All day, all day. Some of you will be checking the news all day to see what happens in the runoff between Senator Raphael Warnock and his Republican challenger, Herschel Walker. And by the time you see this video, nothing will be settled yet. However, it is probably time for me, the California independent who has no way of influencing this election, to now talk about my particular problems with Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker was a professional football player. He has suffered multiple concussions. So, since I understand, and since those of us who are informed understand the problems of multiple concussions, I'm not going to pick at every little thing that Herschel Walker has done and said that is inadvisable. It's cute to do that. It's petty though, and it's not necessary because it causes us to overlook something much more onerous that is going on. And I know my audience demographic, so you're going to hear part one of this, and some of you are not going to be bothered with that, but then part two should concern you a little more. Herschel Walker is a walking, talking, living caricature out of Birth of a Nation, not Nate Parker's version of that, but the much older version of that made in the 19 teens that proposed that Black men in authority were sex crazed, drunkards, and completely unfit for public office. And the KKK has to come and rescue the South from that. They are the heroes of this story. Previous to this election cycle, it had not occurred to me that the Republicans would actually be able to find a Black man who was willing to play that role in public. And Herschel Walker, I don't think, realizes how far off he is because that's the nature of brain trauma. Sometimes you do not realize it. But Herschel Walker, if he were to become senator, is going to be the walking, talking caricature of why Black men should not be allowed in power, period. Now, Senator Raphael Warnock completely gives the lie to this. I do not care for him, but he is competent. He's mentally competent. He says the right things. I saw some things in that debate that I did not like in either man, but of the two of them, obviously Raphael Warnock is the more competent of the two and has been serving as a senator for 2 years, and there's been no difficulty about that. But this is dangerous. Herschel Walker represents something much more dangerous than just the gaffes that he makes because we are in an environment in which white supremacist groups are trying to sell themselves to white people as a whole, that they are the rescuers. Now, let me tell you the other side of this. You have to recognize who we have as president also. Joe Biden is the person who put together the crime bills of 1986 and 1994 that had these very unfair rules about types of cocaine and who got the worst sentences. Now, Black men who went away for 10, 20 years because of these sentences, they made their bed. They chose to sell crack. They chose to take crack. And the Black women who got caught up, they chose what they wanted to do. Be that as it may, when you understand that the whole idea here is to fill up a private prison system in which some of Joe Biden's associates were probably invested and has continued to invest over the years, you understand that this is a move to put Black people back in slavery, primarily the men. But if you do your history for the first 180 years, it was primarily Black men in slavery, which basically means the United States can function perfectly well for a very long time by just putting Black men back in neo slavery. Now, I know my audience here, and some of you are like, well, that's what needs to happen. Just put a pin there because there's something else you don't realize that goes with that, though. Democrats are playing along with this by very, very lax laws in some states about how criminals can be given access to assets and property and people. Black Women Making Money had a post about areas of the country in which people who have apartment buildings are no longer going to be allowed to check criminal background. Now, this is something that, as someone who works in senior housing, this is a hard, fast line for the federal. But on the state level, this particular state, and I can't remember what it is at the moment, but they're democratically controlled. It may be a city, and they are striking this out. Okay, this is a problem. This is a problem because, and we don't like to talk about it. I had a conversation with a black man, and I'm like, well, when I was already maybe 14, 15, 16, about a quarter of black men were felons. He's like, that number can't be that high. I'm like, well, I'm willing to be corrected if you look it up. He came back and said, you are wrong. But and this 62-year-old black man had to tell me that number is between 30 and 33%, 1 in 3. So this is going to give people more access to get housing, which is good because some felons are people who have reformed, but a lot of them aren't. So this is going to set up crime, and this is going to set up more draconian enforcement, however. And this is the part where we should not be celebrating the re-enslavement of black men. Because the flip side of this is this means that the rest of the population is being conditioned to accept authoritarian rule. What you do if you want to have your society become a right-wing authoritarian society is to use the left wing to allow things to happen that create so much crime and so much chaos that people are willing to accept anyone who can get a hold of that. Best believe that Nazis did not have a whole lot of crime except among approved population that had been slated for destruction. Well, if you put Herschel Walker and these soft on crime activities together, what you're going to end up is you're going to end up with the approved population of people to be violent against is black people. And the thing is, racists do not discriminate that much. Sure, you could tell someone that, keep them alive because we need them to invest in prisons. But the average everyday racist doesn't make any money off of that. And the average everyday racist does not care about whether it's a black woman or a child either. Because we see police officers putting 10-year-olds in handcuffs. So this is not good. Don't think of it as, okay, well, we'll be more safe when more black men are behind bars. Not necessarily. Because when you have racism in open season in the United States, it does not discriminate by gender. It does not discriminate by age. So once that door is open, there's going to be a problem for everybody. And unfortunately, if somehow Herschel Walker gets into the Senate today, you essentially will have a man who is the walking, talking caricature of Birth of a Nation up there making all kinds of mistakes. Barack Obama will be forgotten. Raphael Warnock will be forgotten. He will become the poster child of why black men should not be allowed to govern anything. And that is not fair. I'm not a fan of Raphael Warnock. I'm not a fan of Barack Hussein Obama. I don't know enough about Hakeem Jeffries to have any opinion about him just yet. But I can name 3 competent men. 4, Cory Booker. Eric Holder. I can name competent men who have been in government recently who are better representations than Herschel Walker will be. But if he wins, he will be Birth of a Nation redux, as he will be made the poster child of why American descendants of slave men should not be anywhere near seats of power. It will be a disaster for the black image across the country. But what do I know? According to my demographics, most of you are probably going to vote for Raphael Warnock. And again, as a Californian, I don't have a say in what you should do if you live in Georgia. That's your decision to make. But I want you to understand that there are forces on both the left and the right who prioritize being able to keep the prisons full and to keep prison slavery going. and who prioritize white supremacy. They're on both sides. Remember who Joe Biden's mentors were: Robert Byrd, Jesse Helms, and I believe Strom Thurmond, Dixiecrats. Remember what his actual record is. So Democrats provide no safety here. They just go about it in a very different way. They would not be so blatant as to put up a Herschel Walker. Republicans are just being very open about what they want to do. But you have to watch them both, which is why I'm an independent. I see the games both of them are playing. And if you're not careful, and if you get caught up in the petty bits about people like Herschel Walker, what you will miss is that you may be observing the back door to getting a people to accept authoritarianism. And that's sort of what's at stake in Georgia today. Because if Raphael Warnock gets reelected, then we can kind of push this off into the future just a little bit longer, at least on the Republican side. Because this whole we're just going to set up a situation for crimes to happen, the Democrats are doing, is going to continue if Democrats are in power. So eventually, I'm telling you now, Republicans will sweep stuff because things are going to have to be cleaned up. And former President Donald Trump is up here talking about throwing out the Constitution. Just understand that this is being set up before your eyes. Know what you are looking at and be aware. Be aware that Republicans and Democrats, neither one are necessarily the friends of freedom. And move accordingly. Vote policy, vote character, don't vote party. Because right now, we're in a situation, even if the Republican Party collapsed tomorrow, we would still be in a very dangerous moment. All right, that was a little grim news to add to what you're going to be looking at with Georgia on your mind today. But I think it's important that you have a broader view of what actually is going on around you so that you can make informed decisions as we get ready for the election of 2024. All right, y'all have a good day now. I may have one more video. There's some more folks you need to leave in 2022, and I might get to that a little bit later today. Goodbye. Thank you for listening, and welcome. I know I have at least one new subscriber today. Welcome. All right, goodbye.